So Toy Story 3 opened this weekend and it's a huge hit. Everybody loves it. But what's fascinating to me is how few people know about the relationship between Pixar, the studio that makes the Toy Story films, and Apple computers. Because without Buzz and Woody, it is very likely that there would be no iPads and iMacs and iPhones in the world today, and that Apple computers probably wouldn't exist. George Lucas was the original owner of Pixar. It was part of Lucasfilms, and he needed to sell the company back in the early 80s to raise cash to get out of his marriage. He was getting a divorce, and so he sold the company to Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, of course, was the co-founder of Apple Computers, although at this point he's been away from the company for years. He gets forced out of Apple. It's really bitter. He has nothing to do with them. And he's taken his money and he started another computer company called Next Computers, which makes a really beautiful, super great computer which nobody can afford. And so the company is kind of a flop, and Steve Jobs is sort of seen as a has-been at this point, and he's not worth nearly as much money as he once was. But he does a really smart thing when he buys Pixar. He leaves it alone. He lets the animators, John Lasseter and those guys, be really creative, and they come to him with this idea for Toy Story, which is going to be the world's first CGI feature-length film. And so Steve Jobs takes the idea to Disney and pitches it to them, and they agree to make the film together, which they do. And then the film comes out, and it's a monster hit. It succeeds far beyond their expectations. And now all of a sudden, Steve Jobs has got his mojo back big time. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he has got a golden glow to him. Things, on the other hand, over at Apple Computers are not going so well. They've had a lot of court cases go against them. They've released some bad products. They've made a lot of bad decisions, and the company's basically been ridden into the ground. And they're actually talking about selling the company off for parts. So Apple Computers is pretty much on death's door at this point. And so they come to Steve Jobs, who's got his mojo back, and beg him to come back and see if he can turn the company around, which he agrees to do. And he brings along with him the software that runs his Next Computers, and that is the core that turns into the OS X operating system, which is what runs all the Macs out there today. And so they start churning out all these great products like the iMac and the iPod, and they just reinvigorate the whole personal computer industry. So without Buzz and Woody, we wouldn't have Apple in our world today. And as a guy who really loves Apple products, I got to say thanks, Buzz and Woody. Awesome job. I hope there's a Toy Story 4 and 5.